Welcome everyone, I'm John from Agility, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to successfully launch the Kubernetes dashboard. Now that we've created our cluster, the last step is to launch the dashboard so that we can have a visual overview of what's happening in our cluster. So let's get started. Here I am on our cheat sheets for the Microsoft Azure Kubernetes setup, which you can find on through the Agility Hub tenant or entity on GitHub. I will paste links in the show notes for this. So we're at this final stage here at the bottom where we want to create cluster role bindings and launch the dashboard. So if I just go to this section, you'll see that we are about 2 or 3 commands away from launching our dashboard in the browser. Now, before we go and do this, let me just first show you why we have to create these cluster role bindings. Let's assume that this wasn't here and we went straight to launching the Kubernetes dashboard. The one way of doing this is we can just copy this command over here and we're going to paste and we can paste it in terminal. But before we do that, I want to show you something quite cool if you are using Visual Studio, and that is, in the previous video I showed you how our cluster would be accessible and listed in the cluster section of the Kubernetes extension. Alright, now this is one of the great reasons why I use Visual Studio Code, is because it actually takes away a lot of the need for having to type out these commands via terminal in order to perform certain operations. So let me give you an example. If I highlight our cluster over here, I right click and I say open dashboard, it goes ahead and does all of this for us. So a few seconds later, it will open it up in our browser and we can now see our Kubernetes dashboard. But can we see also what's wrong over here? We've got a lot of permissions errors even though the dashboard loaded. Alright, so that's not what we want. We want to be able to load this dashboard and we have the relevant access control in place. And that is why, coming back to the cheat sheet, we have to go and create these 2 cluster role bindings. Alright, so let's go and copy and paste the first one. They're very easy. You just copy and paste whatever I've put over here and that will do the job for you. So I'm going to stop the dashboard and I'm going to go here to terminal and I'm just going to go and say to create the cluster role binding called Kubernetes dashboard with the role of cluster admin, and the service account is kubesystem Kubernetes dashboard. Alright, so that was quick, it was done, and let's go and do the same for the namespace. Alright, so we're going to do the same, and we're going to create a cluster role binding for default, which has got a cluster admin role for the service account kubesystem default namespace. Let's go ahead and do that. Now that we've done those 2, we can go and right click on this and say open dashboard. And voila, our Kubernetes dashboard is up and running, the access control is in place, we are ready to deploy applications to our Kubernetes environment. So let's close this quickly and also just confirm that this actual command will work locally, because this is actually referencing the resource group name and the cluster name. So if I go back over here, stop this process and paste this, change these values quickly. Right, so there I've changed the values. Resource group is RG Acme Dev, the name of the cluster is cluster Acme Dev. If I hit this, we should get the same result. It should load the browser, and usually this would happen, right? The browser loads a little bit too quickly, and then what happens is it says it cannot find the page. But if we just do a refresh over here, you'll notice it actually launches the dashboard just fine. It just sometimes loads a bit too quick. Great, so that concludes the first phase of our video series of the Azure Kubernetes setup. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been valuable. There are going to be a few more videos coming after this. We're going to focus on doing things on the Azure environment, like setting up static IP addresses and maybe a bit of load balancing as well. But for now, I've given you enough to get your environment up and running, and now you can just follow suit as you would on any other Kubernetes environment when it comes to deploying Helm charts or setting up services or creating pods, whatever it may be. Everything else more or less from here onward is related directly to Kubernetes and not necessarily Azure specific. So once again, I hope you've had a good one, and until the next videos, cheers.